Good morning. Good morning, everyone. And it's good to see you here today. So during the past several weeks, we've been discussing the Fukazazenji. This all originated with the question of, am I doing it right? Am I practicing Zazen right? And I hope that this discussion has helped dispel that question. But we're finishing up really with the last section of the Fukazazenji. And Master Dogen ends with an exhortation and an enticement. The exhortation is along the lines of, don't waste your time. Don't waste your precious time. And the enticement is that of a treasure. So we'll explore those passages a bit. It starts like this: you have gained the pivotal opportunity of a human form. Do not use your time in vain. You are maintaining the essential working of the Buddha way. Who would take wasteful delight in the spark from the flint stone? Besides, form and substance are like the dew on the grass. Destiny like the dart of lightning, emptied in an instant, vanished in a flash. So this notion of having gained the opportunity to be a human, of course, relates back to the traditional Indian view of reincarnation or rebirth. That, you could have been a bird, but you turned out to be a human. And you could have been a centipede, but here you are. And it speaks to the rarity of this opportunity. Now, whether you buy into the notion of rebirth or not is really beside the point. I think we can all agree that life is precious, that there is something special about being here now, about having this human consciousness at our disposal. And in this passage, Dogen makes reference to a passage at the conclusion of the Diamond Sutra. The Diamond Sutra would have been something that Dogen was very familiar with. One of the primary sources in Mahayana Buddhism. The diamond that cuts through delusions. So at the conclusion of the Diamond Sutra, the Buddha recites a little verse. The Diamond Sutra, by the way, is this is a image from the faceplate of the Diamond Sutra that is the reportedly the oldest extant printed manuscript in the world. And it was found, it's dated actually is at 868 CE, and it was found in a cave by a monk in 1900, and sort of spirited away to the British Museum shortly thereafter, where it currently resides. It was printed on from a woodblock print. And it's clear that printing from woodblock had matured quite a bit even by that time in China, because of the just the expertise with which these woodblocks were made. But in any case, the final verse that the Buddha expounds in the Diamond Sutra is, all compounded things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. That is how to meditate on them. That is how to observe them. All compounded things are like a dream, a phantom, a drop of dew, a flash of lightning. That is how to meditate on them. That is how to observe them. The Diamond Sutra was, it's about lots of things, but it's primarily about impermanence, transience, and emptiness. Another translation of that same passage: as a lamp, a cataract, a star in space, an illusion, a dewdrop, a bubble, a dream, a cloud, a flash of lightning, view all created things like this. So Dogen is encouraging us to pay attention to the rapid passage of time in our lifetime, and to make good use of our time, to not waste our time with delighting in the sparks from a flintstone. In other words, delighting in mere sensual pleasures. And perhaps you could say he's not talking exclusively about what you do, but even more so about how you do it. A recurring theme in Dogen's work is wholeheartedness. He could also be talking about not chasing after fame and gain, another common theme in Dogen's writings. So the next passage the final passage really in the Fukazazenji ends in an enticement. The passage reads like this. This is the translation used at the San Francisco Zen Center. Please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not be suspicious of the true dragon. Revere the person of complete attainment who is beyond all human agency. Gain accord with the enlightenment of the Buddhas. Succeed to the legitimate lineage of the ancestors' samadhi. Constantly perform in such a manner that you are assured of being a person such as they. Your treasure store will open of itself, and you will use it at will. I'll just read that once again. Please, honored followers of Zen, long accustomed to groping for the elephant, do not be suspicious of the true dragon. Revere the person of complete attainment who is beyond all human agency. Gain accord with the enlightenment of the Buddhas. Succeed to the legitimate lineage of the ancestors' samadhi. Constantly perform in such a manner that you are assured of being a person such as they. Your treasure store will open of itself, and you can use it at will. So the first part of that little passage refers to an elephant and a dragon. And here Dogen is referring to a couple of stories. One I'm sure you're familiar with, the other you might be familiar with. The story I'm sure you're familiar with is the elephant and the blind men, because that has been, it's an ancient Indian story, but it's been propagated really around the world in many cultures. And I'm sure you've perhaps been acquainted with it in childhood, about how there are blind men that are trying to describe an elephant, and one person on the side of the elephant describes it as a wall, and the other person grabbing hold of one of the legs describes it as a tree trunk, and the other person grabbing the trunk describes it as a snake, and somebody grabbing the tusk describes it as a spear, and you could just keep going like that. So that everyone just viewing a part of the elephant develops a view about what it is that is only partial, and nobody really understands the whole elephant. So I think Dogen, of course, is warning us not to well, really not to rely on our limited view, our limited discriminative mind that can really only see part of the whole at any given time. And then he goes on to encourage us to not be afraid of the true dragon. And this refers to a story that some of you may be familiar with. This is an old Chinese story about the man who, Seiko was his name, S-E-I-K-O. At least I think that's the Japanese rendition of his name, who was enamored with dragons. And he lived in a little house and just filled it with images of dragons. He would draw pictures of dragons, and he would carve dragons out of wood. He had, yard ornaments in front, the dragons, and he had all kinds of images of dragons throughout his house, along with books about dragons and much dragon lore. So he lived in a little village by the seaside, and a dragon out at sea actually became aware of Seiko and thought that he would enjoy a visit since he's so interested in dragons. And the dragon came out of the sea and found his way to Seiko's house, knocked on the door, and Seiko opened the door and screamed and went running out the back way and was never seen again. So this story is commonly used in Zen because it speaks to our tendency to read about meditation, to read about the Buddha's teachings, to think about them with our discriminative mind and just sort of dream about such things without actually engaging in the practice. So in this case, the true dragon is Zazen. It's what we experienced during the last 30 minutes sitting, which is, it takes a certain amount of courage to look at your mind for that period of time while your body is still and you're not distracting yourself by doing something. It's a little like staring at yourself in the mirror for 30 minutes. It takes courage. It's not always pleasant. And that is the true dragon. That is the practice. He could also be referring to carrying that practice into our everyday lives, and our everyday lives are the true dragon. What we dream about and imagine and have notions about are images of the dragon. So again, Dogen is encouraging us to practice wholeheartedly. Now, another section from this passage talks about revere the person of attainment, of complete attainment beyond all human agency. I think this particular sentence must have been hard to translate because the different translations are so different. I'll just read 3 other translations of the same sentence. Respect those who have realized full knowledge and have nothing more to do. Respect those who have realized full knowledge and have nothing more to do. Revere people who are beyond study and without intention. Be in accord with the Buddha's awakening. So these are very different kinds of sentences, all translated from the same text. So what does that mean? In a way, this translation is confusing. The one that says the person, revere the person of complete attainment beyond all human agency. We'll set aside the notion of that attainment business, which gets complicated, but beyond all human agency. Well, when that term is used in other contexts, it refers to human agency, refers to being conscious and competent and responsible. And I don't think Dogen is encouraging us to revere those who are irresponsible or incompetent. The way I interpret this is he's encouraging us to revere those who are unflappable, who are steady in the face of the 4 winds, the winds of fame and gain, of shame and blame, or praise and blame, of gain and loss, and of pain and pleasure, or pain and sorrow. In other words, the vicissitudes of life, the things that happen. Revering the person who can remain present through all of that without being swayed. So in the final portion of this, I'll just come back to it for a moment. Your treasure store will open of itself, and you will use it at will. That little line has often confused me. What is the treasure store and using it at will? It sounds so, in a way, materialistic and incompatible with the rest of the text. I've come to see the treasure store as freedom, as Dogen advocating this practice as a path to freedom. Perhaps particularly timely in this week of Passover. Freedom from what? Freedom from attachment, aversion, and delusion, and especially freedom from that delusion of a fixed self. Now, sometimes the person that is the most oppressive is ourself. This notion of a self with a fixed view, with a fixed view of what we are and what we want. Perhaps to be beyond human agency is just to see that self as the phantom that it is. And seeing that opens up the possibility of great freedom, not being tied to what you think you are, or perhaps notions about what you think you ought to be. But just being in the world and responding to what arises with whatever skillfulness you can muster. So I think Dogen is advocating Zazen, viewed in the broadest sense, this Zen practice, as being an aid for us to attain freedom. So that is the conclusion of the Fukazazenji. And it's a text, I'll say again, that can bear many interpretations, many readings, many revisitings. And I don't pretend to in any way have exhausted the meaning of this text. But I hope that through this discussion, I've invited you to explore the text and to use it. So we'll stop there, and then we'll continue with discussion. I think we'll divide up into some groups. I hope you can all stay, but if not, that's okay too. And then we'll after the breakout groups, we'll get together and discuss as one. Thank you for listening.